So for the sake of brevity, I'm not going to cover kind of basic grafting because this isn't really a basic grafting video. I'll try to put some links in the description to other videos, or maybe I'll make some soon on the basic grafts that I'm going to use here. When I decided to try interstem grafting, I did a little bit of research, and almost everybody said it would take 2 years. 1 year to graft on and grow the interstem, and then another year to grow out the top. And I found one guy on the Home Orchard Society, I think it was, forum, said that he did it in 1 year, and that's exactly what I was thinking. So I tried it and it worked. The first year I did 23 trees, and only 2 of those failed. One of them actually grew a sucker off of the interstem that I was able to graft onto the next year. And both of those failures were almost certainly due to poor quality scion wood that I had received in trades, skinny, kind of dried up small scions. Not only did I graft those 23 trees all in, 3 parts in 1 year, but that year, just to see if I could do it, I grafted one root with 6 pieces grafted, on top one after another. And all of those grafts healed and grew. So I think that pretty much proves the point. A good place to get these interstem pieces is from a scion exchange. If you have a scion exchange where they sell rootstocks, or where they do custom grafts, usually this part gets thrown away, so that's a good place. Otherwise, if you already have dwarf trees, you can use suckers, or you can grow your own rootstock, which is pretty easy. You just plant one of these and cut it off every year and bury it about this deep in damp sawdust for the season, and the new shoots will sprout roots. If at all possible, I like to have the rootstock and the interstem piece about the same size, so I can make a really clean graft. And I'll always, if possible, do a whip and tongue graft on this lower part. Again, if the scions match. If they don't match in size, if they're very, very different, then I'll usually use a cleft graft on this lower one. But if at all possible, I prefer to use the whip and tongue graft because it heals faster, and after all, if this lower joint has to heal and start growing before the upper one can start to receive nutrients. So you want to make this lower graft as clean and tight and good as possible. So I have some gold rush scions here, and I'm going to whip up a couple of grafts. This M111 wood's a little tricky to work with. It's kind of hard. Bud 9 in general is real easy to work with. So you can see these stalks I have are pretty much the same size. I've got nice, clean, flat cuts going. And that's going to make a pretty clean, nice looking joint there. Pick off any buds underneath that would be wrapped underneath the tape. And just since I'm wrapping this and I have a chance to talk, well, never mind. Okay, so I have some gold rush scions I'm going to put on the top here, and I'm going to leave this about 8 inches long. I think that's a good round number. If apparently the shorter it is, the less dwarfing effect it has, and vice versa. So I was pretty sloppy the first time, but I would make them at least 5 inches long. And the reason is that if you want to bury this lower joint here to suppress suckering, like I mentioned in the last video, then you really want enough space here that this joint up here can never get buried, because if this joint gets buried, the top joint, then the actual fruit scion can sprout roots and it'll start growing like crazy. So I think 8 inches is probably a good kind of easy round number to use. Since these scions are about the same size, I'm just going to go ahead and use another whip and tongue graft. Again, about the same size. Cut this off. I really only need about 2 viable buds on the top part here. And again, nice tight fit here. If I squeeze it together, I can't see any light showing through. Looks really good. Now when I'm done wrapping this top part, I'm going to pick off all of the buds on the interstem and on the rootstock. Any buds that might sprout and grow, I want to pick those off. Often you will get a few sprouts growing anyway, but we can leave one of the sprouts growing off the interstem. And I just use my thumbnail like this. We can leave one sprout growing off the interstem because that'll give us an opportunity in case the top doesn't grow to still have something to graft onto the next year. But I don't actually leave any buds on here. Usually you'll get a couple little adventitious buds on the side sprouting out though. So I'm just going to get all these buds out of here. And there we go. Voila! It is important that you wrap these very tightly. One of the main ways a graft can go wrong is if this joint moves at all while it's still healing, or while the tissue that's healing is still real tender. That's usually a deal killer right there. It'll actually, make the graft fail. But these are wrapped very tight, so they can actually take quite a bit of pressure. So between this and staking the tree well, it should be pretty good. But you want to, whatever you use, get a good tight wrap on that, and you notice that probably that I wrapped about 3 or more times up and down the stem. And that's about it. Use quality wood that's nice and plump and not all dried out. Make clean grafts. If possible, use stock that's the same size. If you don't have that, then just go for it and see what happens. And wrap it extremely tight so that these joints won't move even if there's like a little bit of wind or a bird comes and sits on this or whatever. And let's go plant this thing.